Yeah, it is another episode of the Autumn Windbags. RJ and Soto here, and
Oh,
recording this Wednesday night, the day before the 2021 NFL Draft. We are less than 24 hours away from finding out who the Raiders' first pick is. 3-day draft extravaganza from Cleveland airing on ESPN. So that means, Soto, that we're roughly 24 hours away from throwing our remote controls at our television sets once again and saying, what the hell did we just do with our first round pick?
unfortunately, that's been the MO lately. My butthole is so tight right now. I'm so nervous. I want them so bad to just do the right thing, and I'm very nervous.
I can tell by the descriptive nature of your sphincter. That's how I can
Yeah,
tell
it's
exactly where you're
so
at.
tight right now.
We'll get to that in a little bit, but the big news just came out today. The AFC West got a little tougher. How much tougher, I think, is up for debate. The Carolina Panthers have traded quarterback Teddy Bridgewater to the Denver Broncos for a sixth-round pick in this draft. They announced it today. The Panthers will pay $7 million to Bridgewater. The Broncos will only have to pay $3 million. All this, according to ESPN's Adam Schefter. So it looks like Drew Lock. They're making it sound like it's still a quarterback competition, and I guess
None.
technically it can be, but
No.
Teddy Bridgewater is going to get the start for the
Yeah.
Broncos in 2021, and normally Teddy Bridgewater going to a team isn't game changing, right? I mean,
Not this team.
when he went to the Saints, like he was a backup, played fantastic. It was brilliant career move by Teddy Bridgewater to take less money to be a backup in New Orleans, because then he got to take over got to steer the ship of a great team, right? Like
Loaded team.
the
Yeah.
Saints are stacked. And so instead of him starting for like the Jets or, some shit team, he got to be the backup for a great team. When he did play, he looked amazing. So Carolina gave him a screaming deal. What did he get? 30-something million dollars for 3 years to go to the Carolina Panthers. Fizzled out there. They're moving on. And so now he's going to the Broncos in a similar situation. Broncos got a lot of weapons.
They had everything but a quarterback, man.
But they had Drew Lock dragging the whole team down, and now Teddy Bridgewater's under center.
Here's the issue. In Carolina, they lost Christian McCaffrey for a big chunk of that year. He is their entire offense.
Mm-hmm.
Their entire offense runs through Christian McCaffrey. So you have your entire, basically a huge bulk of your offense missing for a majority of the season.
Mm-hmm.
You're just not going to he still was like almost a 70% passer last year.
Yeah.
And I mean, he had Robbie Anderson, he had DJ Moore, he had a couple targets out there. Not slouches, but not what he has in Denver now.
Yeah.
You look at Denver, they have dual threat running backs, they have good receivers on the outside, a solid offensive line, and a strong defense. That sounds a lot like the fucking Saints when he was there.
Yeah.
And we were talking earlier. I said when I found out, I sent it to you guys, you and Rory. And Rory, I don't know what the fuck he would fail a piss test. He's fucking high right now. He's like, oh yeah, it's not going to be anything, and this not like, what the fuck are you talking about, Rory? This is a legit starting quarterback in the NFL. He's going to a team that had everything but a quarterback, and now they have one, and he's in our division. So it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good for us right now. Hopefully we turn some heads and make some big leaps, but the Denver Broncos just got a lot better.
This reminds me of the Broncos during like the Tebow years, when even with crappy ass Tim Tebow, they go to the playoffs and like win games late. And again, it's not because of Tebow, but in spite of Tebow, they were able to get some wins. They go and get Peyton Manning, bam, they win the Super Bowl. And remember, this is Peyton Manning that wasn't like prime Peyton Manning. Like he did not play well that Super Bowl year.
Yeah, broken neck Peyton Manning.
Broken neck, old as hell, just ring chasing, just kind of managing the game. Obviously, Teddy Bridgewater and Peyton Manning are two different players, but this kind of reminds me of that, where you're just like, you don't even need a good quarterback. Just have a quarterback that doesn't drag your whole team down, and the Broncos can be dangerous. The Broncos were supposed to be the punching bag of the AFC West
Not
next
anymore.
season, right?
Not
Chiefs,
anymore.
obviously, unbelievable stacked back-to-back Super Bowl appearances with a win. The Chargers, now they got rid of their coach. They probably shouldn't have just insanely terrible special teams anymore. Justin Herbert's only getting better. And the Broncos are like, okay, they can't move the ball because they got no quarterback. That should be, that was the only AFC West team we swept last season. Now it's getting heated. Now the AFC West is a real minefield.
Yeah, there's no easy games anymore. There's no games where we're like, all right, this game, what did you say last year when we played the Broncos the first time? I want a curb stomping. Yeah. That's what I want in this game. That's not going to happen this year. Teddy Bridgewater is not careless with the football. He makes good decisions. He can make the throws, and he has playmakers now. He has playmakers every level. He has decent tight ends. He has good receivers. He's got good running backs. He has weapons, and I think, if as a Raider fan, if you dismiss this move, you are mistaken. You are mistaken for who Teddy Bridgewater is as a player.
So last season, Teddy Bridgewater started 15 games. They were 4-11 under him. 69% completion percentage, 15 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 3,733 yards. His last season with the Saints in 2019, started 5 games, 5-0, actually had a lower completion percentage, 68%, just 1 percentage lower. Threw for 1,384 yards, 9 touchdowns, 2 picks. 2 picks in 5 games. I mean, when you're banking on Drew Lock, who's supposed to hurt you, right? Supposed to hurt the Broncos, and you're banking on him to hurt the Broncos. Teddy Bridgewater's not a guy that's going to hurt you. He's not going to be hero. But if you just need a game manager and someone that's just going to not throw picks, not be reckless, he is your man.
I think he's a little bit better than a game manager, but I get what you're saying. He's not going to implode your game plan. He's going to run your game plan, and if your game plan is sound, he's also able to make those little plays outside of the structure of the offense, here and there. After his knee injury, he's not as mobile as he used to be, but he's not a stiff back there.
And also, I think we're also forgetting his 2015 season too. He was 11-5.
It's not a bad quarterback, dude.
Minnesota. I mean, again,
not a bad quarterback, man.
He's got everything going for him.
Look at that. He had a running game in Minnesota. He had a decent line. He had playmakers on the outside, and he had a defense that could take away the football. It's like, dude, when you give him, he's shown that when you give him that, he's going to win. He's won everywhere. Last year, he didn't have his best player, basically his entire offense almost, and he still threw, that one extra game, he was sniffing 4,000 yards. So it's not like he's not a scrub at all. He's a drastic improvement at quarterback. It's exactly what they needed. They're not paying a lot for him. It gives Broncos the flexibility to trade out of that 8 pick and get some more capital and fill some holes and make a decent team now even stronger.
I wonder if this is a blessing in disguise, though, because let's say Teddy Bridgewater plays above average. Right. Let's say he plays, like he did in Minnesota, right? They win 10, 11 games, 68% completion percentage, 15 touchdowns, 5 picks, right? That's good enough. That's going to keep Teddy Bridgewater employed and starting in Denver, but not bad enough where you're going to go chasing a really, really good quarterback, right? Like it's going to keep them from being like, all right, let's just keep hunting for the next John Elway. Mm-hmm. This might be just like a level of mediocrity at QB that could keep us long-term potentially in a better spot. Unless we think that the Broncos are just going to just fritter away the next few seasons, like just chasing quarterbacks they'll never find.
Yeah, I mean, what you're describing is to a lesser extent of what I feel is happening with the Raiders right now. I've said it. I think that we can do better at quarterback, and I think we should, if the opportunity arises, we should look into not just taking a 5th round flyer on the guy, but it's decent draft capital if we have it on somebody who's a good player, man.
Stop.
I'm
it's
not
our
sold
defense
on him,
that's
dude.
dragging us down. I know, but again, we've had this conversation a million times. It's like clearly every single stat and metric points to the defense being the reason that the Raiders are sucking ass.
Except what I brought up last week. Even when the team doesn't give up a lot of points, Derek Carr's not lighting the world on fire.
He's the only consistent thing on our team for the last 7 years.
Consistent doesn't mean he's the best option that we can have.
He's the best option on the team, and he's the best. Like, look, I don't know, man. We've
on
had
the team. We had the problem.
Any
is,
position,
RJ, you're so risk averse, RJ. You're not willing to go for what we need because he's good enough right now. That's the problem that I have. He's not. He's a Jimmy Garoppolo. He needs that big, huge team around him to go to the Super Bowl. That's
how do we know? He's never had a decent team around him. Not like he's not
because
Teddy
whenever the defense does play at a decent level, he's still not a hugely winning quarterback. He's a barely over 500 quarterback.
Oh yeah, like the 2 games this season when the defense plays somewhat okay. When the defense played somewhat okay this season, he played fine.
7 years, 52 games in 7 years. They held teams to 23 points or less.
You're also including his first few seasons too, where like that rookie year when the whole team was absolutely atrocious. You're counting a lot of really, really bad teams, of things that were not in Derek Carr's control. When he has a consistent offensive coordinator and weapons, he's playing great. He's playing fantastic. If we can get even, and when we had a 20th ranked defense, it was 2016 when he went 12-3.
I don't think he's playing great. I think he's
top 10 quarterback.
I think that's where he is. I think that's what he is. He's in that range. That's what he is. He's like
top 10 quarterback. Like, we're lucky to have one. Like there's 20 teams that wish they had Derek Carr, right? We just don't have a defense to help him out. So hopefully that's what happens with this draft. So with that said, I keep dumping on you for this, but you're not alone. I understand why like bigger mainstream NFL media always wants to talk about, is Derek Carr the guy? Will John Gruden have a wandering eye? Are they going to make some trades and try to get, find another quarterback? I get that because that's Gruden's MO, and people don't follow the Raiders as well as you and I do, knowing that it's the defense that's dragging down this entire team. With that said, Bill Barnwell, the smartest NFL mind at ESPN, he's kind of with you, which surprised me. He proposed, 32 trades for all 32 teams. I think this is more, he wants to talk about something exciting with names, kind of a sexy trade. Like if you did like a 3-team trade to get us like a safety, it's not that fun of a read, but he's proposed a trade to get us a quarterback. So he's saying the Raiders get pick number 7 from Detroit, pick number 5 from New England.
Pick number 177 from New England.
Fifth round pick, 177. We would trade our 17th pick and a first round pick next season, and a
third round pick this year.
And the Patriots get Marcus Mariota. So basically, we're trading up to 7 to get like a Justin Fields or a Trey Lance, right? That's what he's proposing.
Yep.
Which I think is ridiculous. I think it's absolutely nuts considering all of the needs that this team has, and we're going for a rookie quarterback.
Here's why it isn't nuts. If you're in the Raiders draft room right now and you're saying, look, Derek Carr did play at a top 10 level. That's as good as he's going to get. And we need better.
He's already played better than that in 2016.
Okay.
Right?
That's what we're saying right now. I'm saying if this is what they're saying, and this is where it makes sense. If they're not sold on Derek Carr being more than what he was last year, and they look at one of these younger guys as being this like the Alex Smith, Patrick Mahomes thing. Mm-hmm. You got a Alex Smith quarterback who, by all accounts, was a solid quarterback, winning games, wasn't turning the ball over, still putting up stats. But you have a Patrick Mahomes right there. Okay, I'm not talking about winning and losing. I'm talking about his stats. He's still putting up stats. Okay, and you see a Patrick Mahomes there, who's by far more talented. Okay, you pull the trigger on that deal. If you see that happening, if you see that scenario with one of these, either Fields or Lance, if you see that, That's why I see it happening. That's why I see it happening. I'm not going to just shoo it away as garbage because, again, I'm not as sold on Carr as you are, and I don't want to make this a whole Carr thing again. But if you're in that room and you're not sold 100% that this is your guy, or if you can get better, the thing is on this team, you just need to get better. And I don't think anyone on the team is immune to that. You have to get better everywhere.
But that's my point. It's a 53-man roster, and Derek Carr's like the 6th best player on that roster. Like when
if you draft a guy who's going to be the best player on your team, and he's also the most important player in sports,
it's more important, I think, to get the defense done because you know that when Derek Carr has even just an average shitty defense, again, 2016, 20th ranked defense, still a bad defense. A worse defense than Tom Brady or Ben Roethlisberger ever had in both their entire careers. And he went 12-3 before he broke his leg. Borderline NFL MVP.
And the next year they won 4 games with almost the exact same team.
No, a defense that was like 31st. Again, a defense that was like toilet bowl terrible.
Again, the same players though. Were they playing off their ass that year? What happened? They won a lot of games the last few seconds of the they got a lot of games by 1 or 2 points. Mm-hmm. A lot of things go into that. I mean, were they as good as 12-4 or as bad as 4-12? I think they were somewhere in the middle. But after a while, they tend to kind of go back to the mean. And
it's just a bad allocation.
I'm just not sold on it.
It's just a bad allocation of resources to take. You know,
what if one of these two guys becomes a super stud at quarterback?
What
would
if
it have been bad?
What are the odds that happens? Right? Like, are you willing to risk that on a position where we're already
solid?
That's
what I'm saying, RJ.
Most first round quarterbacks don't pan out. Most don't, right? Most do not.
Most quarterbacks in general don't pan out.
And it gets obviously even worse the further down the draft you go, right? Like first round gives you the best chance. It gets worse second, third. But even the very top guys, the very best dudes coming out of college where you're like, oh, these guys are top 5 picks, top 10 picks, first round draft picks. Most of them do not pan out. And when you have so many problems with the Raiders, every single position on defense needs to be improved.
Agreed.
Offensive line needs a tackle drastically. Like basically other than tight end and running back, like every position could use more depth, more youth, better
playmakers,
everything, right? So like, why are we allocating resources to one thing that's like the 9th best in the league when you have 36, like worst in the league, second worst in the league, 4th? Yeah. Look, by your metric, 9th or 10th, depending on what metric you choose.
Well, because when your quarterback can fix a lot of those holes offensively, especially, he can fix a lot of those holes himself. And and I'm not saying that they should do it. When I looked at it, I was like, all right, that's kind of a stretch, but I can understand the logic behind it. If you don't think Derek Carr is the guy long term, if he's not that guy, if he's just going to be that guy who's topped out, that's the best he's going to play.
Topped out at borderline NFL MVP when the defense is just kind of shitty.
Okay, how many times did he do that?
How many times did he have a defense that wasn't that was worse than that was better than 20th? How
many times has he played to that level?
The one time his defense wasn't one of the worst in the league.
You're not listening to what I'm saying. How often has he played to that level? Not winning the games. How often has he played to that level? How often has he done that?
The one time he didn't have to carry his entire team. Look, again, and remember his. All
right.
Okay, he has 7 pro seasons, right?
So
remember,
the defense is out there helping him make passes and helping him not fumble.
They're giving him better field position, giving him more time to rest. You know, that like not having to play hero ball.
Now
at the
he's
end of
tired.
every game.
Okay, he's tired.
You're telling me that's not a real thing?
Derek Carr, go ahead and sit down, buddy. You're tired. You know, sneak your little hot dog like Mark Sanchez did or whatever. Dude, it's because
CJ Baldwin came on this podcast and explained exactly like the stats.
I'm not talking about his wins and losses, RJ. I'm talking about him as a player. I'm not saying I would even do this trade. I'm saying if you don't think he is the guy, you have to find a way to find your guy. And if you have 2 guys out there that you think are a better quarterback, who are going to be a better, and you have the time. Gruden has 7 fucking years left on his contract.
And what I'm saying, Soto, is you have that exact same scenario at every single position. Every single position.
Then why is Derek Carr untouchable? We have our guy.
He's not untouchable, but he's the lowest. Look, if we were the Broncos, right?
He's the most important position on the field.
And he's the 10th, 10th best in the league. Look, if we had
last year, he was ranked that much. That's not to say he's that every single fucking year, because he's not.
He's that or better 2 of the 7 seasons he's been in the league, and the 2 seasons where there was any sort of continuity with his offense. The 2 times there's been continuity, he's played great. Now, again, I'm not saying he's infallible. If we were the Broncos and we were losing, but we had an insane defense, run game, incredible pass rushers like the Broncos, and we were still losing, okay, yeah, Carr, you're out of there, right? Definitely. But we're not. We suck everywhere except at quarterback. And so it's like, okay, yeah, can we improve that quarterback?
Maybe. The issue that you're not even entertaining the thought of it is too like right in front of my face. There's no forethought in it. There's no foresight into that. You have to look long term as well. And if you feel Derek Carr is limited or he's topped out or that he's going to be that's the best he's going to be, but he's not going to be that every single year, I feel you have to make that. You have to pull that trigger, especially when you have 7 years left to do whatever the hell you want to do.
If like Gruden and Mayock and whoever in Vegas know something we don't, because the stats don't show that Carr is what's holding this team back, right? But if they know something we don't, and they're like, okay, Carr is dragging this team down, then yes. But
that's what I'm saying.
What evidence do we have of that, right? Like,
well, we don't have much evidence of everything. We have what we see on the field. We don't have anything else. We don't know, what's going on in these huddles, what's going on in the play call, what's going on in the game planning. We don't know what's going on because honestly, Mariota, who didn't practice the whole season, he went in there and he did just fucking fine in that same offense.
Played okay.
Yeah, he does same offense. He just came off the freaking.
No, it wasn't the same. They did some RPOs.
They were able to do more with him. They were able to do more
for a defense that wasn't prepared for it. Like, look again, like
you see it from both perspectives. Defense wasn't ready for it, but he didn't fucking take a snap in practice. He just felt like he's just sitting there watching.
Sure, right?
Running the fitness scout team probably.
Mariota can come off the bench and be productive. Good, right? That we learned like what 3 quarters he can do that. This is again like it just to me it just all comes down to of all the problems we have on this team, and there's a ton of them. To allocate that big of resources to a position that we're good at, very not amazing, not Patrick Mahomes, not untouchable. That just seems like complete mismanagement of this football team with all the holes that we have. That's all I'm saying. And I think the reason Bill Barnwell did this trade is because one, Gruden sort of rightfully, but not to the extent they're making him sound. Well, he has the reputation of someone that'll do anything, right? Like he'll trade for whoever, he'll draft whoever, he'll go nuts. He is that way, but not as bad as they make him out to be. And I think that's why they proposed this trade.
Picks. I mean, I get it.
He's also never drafted a quarterback in the first round ever on any team that he's coached. So that's also that would be a first.
He's also never built a Super Bowl winning team either.
He hasn't. Like most coaches. All right, so let's talk about where Mike Mayock is in all this. Obviously, John Gruden. Like even then, and I think Adam Hill put it best. Like, is it really true that John Gruden just like makes every single decision and pushes Mayock to the side and just does what he wants impulsively? It kind of looks that way, but do we know for sure? I don't know. A lot of picks look like Gruden. Like it's gonna look, smell, taste like a Gruden pick. And a lot of them look, smell, and taste like a Mayock pick. So it's kind of, it's kind of hard to know. So Mike Mayock, the Raiders GM, did his regular presser. I believe it was late last week. And he touched on a lot of topics. Here's the first one. Drafting at number 17. Right in the middle. Kind of a unique situation.
Depending on how you set it up in advance and then how the board starts to fall away. Obviously, the further you are away from number one, the more multiplication and different numbers come into play. So at 17, you're sitting there and you're going, okay, I think the board's going to fall a certain way. And how are we going to react? If it doesn't fall that way, is there a way to get out? Is there a way to go back? Okay, and I think a lot of GMs around the league are making calls right now. Hey, you a willing partner? What do you think? Conversely, if you're sitting at 17 and a guy who you think is going to go, 8 to 10 or 12, somebody who you really like that fits what you do starts to slide a little bit, you've got to be willing to say, are we willing to take the chance to give up some draft capital to go get a specific guy? So to answer your question, Paul, and I've said this before, I think you got to be nimble. You got to be willing to go either way, and as the draft develops, make those decisions.
So not anything like super hard hitting there, but he did address kind of in a roundabout way. This is a little bit of a unique first round for the Raiders, because normally like the Raiders are terrible and you get like the fourth overall and a couple first round picks. And so you get to get like whoever you want. Plus if you miss, you can make it up a little bit later in the first round. Now you're right kind of in the middle of round number 1, where you're not, you're early enough where you can get something kind of juicy, but not so early where you're like, okay, we basically know we'll get what we want.
Yeah, it's got a lot more room for fuck ups, a lot more room, and that's what scares me. That's what scares me. If they fucked up a number 4 overall pick, they can fuck up a 17 easily.
Well, I think even more so, right? Because with the number 4 with the number 4 overall pick, you may blow that pick, but you're just blowing that pick. When you're 17 and you want the guy that you think is going to go at 8. You're like, okay, I'll trade up. Well, let me give you even more. Like when he's saying you need to be nimble, you need to be flexible. That's me thinking, oh God, they're going to just like
that kind of go that
throw shit against the wall and end up somewhere we don't want to go.
Well, that leads to our last topic. What if it's a quarterback that's sliding and they think they really like one of these kids that slides, and we're at pick 12 or at pick 13 and we're like, what should we do? Should we just jump up and grab the guy that we want? Who knows? I'll take that hat off for now because I don't want to rehash re-chew my food again.
You could take that hat off, shove it up your ass, and then crap it out later, because we're not doing that.
What did I just say? I said I wasn't going to do it. Yeah. I said I wasn't going to talk about it.
And I just say the same thing, but much more graphic. Make sure it's an R-rated podcast.
I just want them to have a plan. And I don't want that plan to be so outlandish that everyone on the set is scratching their heads, because that's what it's been. That's what it's been the last few years. The last few drafts, the only pick that I think wasn't a head scratcher was the Josh Jacobs pick. Everyone else was like, all right, they're trying to find ways to make it seem like, okay, it wasn't an awful pick. No one's going to come out and say, oh, they fucking blew this shit, just in case that player ends up being something, right? Yeah. Just in case they were right. Everyone wants to cover their asses, right? But everyone's looking at each other when they pick Cleveland Browns, like, dude, this guy was like the 25th ranked player on the board, and they're picking him at 4, and they had freaking Josh Allen pick the next pick. Like, what the fuck are they doing? And it's just, they've done that too many times, and I just hope that they have a plan. That's my thing, and I've been fucked over too many times on the first round with these guys. It's maddening.
Mayock continued, obviously with our line influx. Again, I think most of the outside of the Raiders media, like the general NFL media, look at what the Raiders have done on the line and think, oh, they're just punting, they're giving up. What's wrong with them? You and I kind of see what they're doing. Whether it pans out or not, we'll see. Losing Rodney Hudson obviously.
They still have starters. They still have starters.
Still have quality. Line. They got younger, they got faster, they got cheaper. Now what they do with that money, again, they'll probably screw up. But if we can go from the most expensive line in football, that's pretty good, to an average costing line that's almost as good, that seems like a no-brainer to me. So
yeah, that's a win.
And obviously, right tackle is a big position of need for us. So here's Mayock on the line and line coach Tom Cable.
I think it's an interesting. I'm actually, it's funny because I think the public perception is, the Raiders, they made a bunch of moves on the offensive line, therefore they're going to be worse there. And I'm kind of energized by it, to be really honest with you. And we redid our left tackle's contract, Colton Miller, and I think that showed our locker room that we were really willing to be really aggressive in signing one of our own and somebody we believe is a cornerstone, right? And then people are like, well, yeah, you traded away one of the best centers in football, and we did. But you can't make that move unless you think you've got somebody right behind them that can come in and compete. So, we look at an Andre James and a Nick Martin and say, look, we feel like we can compete at center. We think we're getting younger. I'm excited and energized by what our offensive line room is starting to look like. And I'm excited and energized because I think Tom Cable feels the same way. So we have all the respect in the world for Rodney and Gabe and Trent. But at this point, we made a conscious decision to try to get younger, maybe a little bit more athletic, and let's go. And I can't wait to see how we react.
So part of me understands the move. Part of me doesn't like Mayock's answer where he's just like, oh, I'm excited. Let's go. I'm jacked. It's like, well, you're not really giving me a reason to be. It's like,
well, they're younger and they're more athletic. When someone says, when someone in the NFL says, well, maybe they'll be this, that's what they think. Mm-hmm. They think that their line is going to be younger and more athletic. Bottom line. So that's I said that when we talked about what the offense would look like next year. I said they're going to be more athletic. They're going to get out more in space, and they're going to be able to hopefully make more blocks down the field for some of their playmakers. Mm-hmm. But that's where I think he's coming from as far as that goes.
I generally think he's right. But he didn't explain and he didn't give me information that I didn't already have, right? Like, yeah, we know you wanted to go young. When you say go younger, you mean cheaper in the NFL. That's what it means.
Oh yeah,
right?
Cheaper.
You go younger, it means cheaper. Okay,
cheaper and more athletic. That's what they got. Cheaper and more athletic, and you have all the confidence in the world in Tom Cable to be able to mold these guys together. Mm-hmm. I don't see a problem. I don't see a problem at all, dude. Look, if we're looking at this draft here, you have like an Alex Leatherwood, a Wyatt Davis, a Jalen Mayfield, all from big programs. This is why I'm a big proponent of picking offensive linemen from big time programs, because these guys, if they show out at offensive line, they're not going up against scrubs or guys that are going to be selling insurance in a couple of years. They're going up against NFL level defensive linemen every single game.
Yeah.
And that's why you have an Alex Leatherwood at Alabama, a Wyatt Davis from Ohio State, a Jalen Mayfield from Michigan. Either one of these guys would be a home run pick in the second round for the Raiders. No problem with either one of them. I don't think Penei Sewell going the first, Slater's going in the first, Darrisaw's going in the first, Tucker's going in the first. Jenkins probably more than likely going to go in the first as well. Those guys are going to go in the first round. But you get that second tier. These guys are players, dude. These guys would be late first round picks, mid first round picks, even on weaker years. But this just happens to be a fucking stacked ass fucking year for offensive linemen in the draft.
And a position of need more than any position for the Raiders.
And I'm telling you right now, we're going to be able to get a solid pick if indeed we do wait to the second round. And I have no problems if they pick up, let's say, a Darrisaw or a Vera Tucker or a Jenkins in the first round. I have no problems with that shit. Would that be the way I would go? I don't think that the gap is that much between those and the other guys that I just said. I think
if the Raiders picked best player available at a position of need, I'm doing backflips in the hallway because that means they didn't do something stupid.
Yeah, they didn't do something fucking retarded.
By Raiders standards.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, and we're gonna get to this a little bit later in the episode, but I want them to go defensive playmaker the first round because we need one. We don't really have a defensive playmaker. I mean, Ngakoue is more of a situational pass rusher who plays the run on the way to the quarterback. Mm-hmm. You can run on him, so he's not really an every down type of player. We just need a playmaker on defense. Whoever's the best defensive player available, grab that, because offensive line is the next position of need, and there's a ton of them, and you're going to be able to find a starting quality offensive lineman in the second round. No problem. He'll be there.
And you got to go big school with linemen these days.
You have to, man.
Because you can't practice anymore. Every single time there's a collective bargaining agreement, it's like less practice. And then you throw COVID into the mix where, there's no OTAs and like you basically, you can't like just draft like a 6'7", 330-pound beast from like a D2 school, doesn't know what he's doing. Like, okay, I'll coach this guy and make him good. Like Colton Miller's a perfect example. Like He came from UCLA, a good, solid program, a physical specimen, and he still took a couple seasons to like develop and get where you want.
Yeah.
Right?
So just take a look at this. All right. Look at these schools from where the highest ranked offensive linemen are from. Okay. Oregon, Northwestern, Virginia Tech, USC, Oklahoma State, Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan, Clemson, Oklahoma. That's the top 10. Those are big time programs. And it's not just and they have some small school guys here. They have that kid from North Dakota State's on here, Texas, Alabama, Tennessee. This is not something where you're going to really be wrong. You're not picking these fucking Mandriches anymore. That's not what you're getting anymore. You know what you're looking for in offensive linemen, and offensive linemen now are a whole lot more athletic than they used to be. They're not just big sloppy dudes anymore. You don't see those big hangy belly guys anymore. These are big offensive linemen, fucking athletic kids, like huge kids, and these are all from big time programs because they're playing against big time defensive players every fucking week. They're playing against NFL players every week, and that's how you know they're going to translate better into the NFL.
Another thing that Mayock brought up, so one thing that's been a big topic of discussion for a lot of teams. All right, how do we handle players that opted out last season? How to handle college players that opted out? And it's a legit question. I think it's been a little overblown, but I think there's a legit question there to it. Like if this guy opts out, like one, you have the real problem where it's like we missed a whole year of footage on the guy, right? Like how much better did he get? How much worse did he get? Did he just sit around with like Trent Brown eating candy all season long, or was he like busting his ass and staying in shape and working for to go to the draft and go to the NFL? Sometimes it's really hard to know that under the best of circumstances, let alone under COVID. But I think this question means the most for a coach like John Gruden because he's such a Gruden grinder dude. I want a player that loves football. I want a kid. Yeah, I'm with you. I want a kid that'll like crawl through molten lava just to play one down of football because he loves it so much, right? Like that's John Gruden. And so opt-out players, I think Gruden could have a bigger effect on than others. Like that could affect Gruden's decision more than others. Mayock was asked about exactly that.
It's a lot deeper question. We sat down with kids on Zoom and asked that question to every single one of them. And some of them talked about their parents and having relatives that died from COVID and having to go home and take care of family. So, do I think some of them may have used it as an excuse to get out of football and go train? Sure. But at the end of the day, it's really hard to figure out which ones. And that's why you got to really just continue to drill down on the kid, what his play demeanor is, what his coaches think about him, all your different sources, because it's really a can of worms. And I think every team will look at those opt-outs a little bit differently.
So I like Mike Mayock. The jury is still out on him as a GM. I'm optimistic that he will be that he's a good GM and will be our GM, for the long term, and he'll be a good member of the squad, right? The jury's still out on that, but as a TV personality, he's such a home run. What a perfect answer! What a perfect answer! Because before draft time, every coach, every scout, every GM, it's all about misinformation. Let's throw as many curveballs out there as possible to confuse the other 31 teams on who we're going to draft. And so if I'm a GM that's picking like kind of right after the Raiders, I'm thinking, okay, we might get some of these opt-out kids that we think are good because Gruden's going to say no. Oh, this guy doesn't like football. I don't like him. That's the perfect answer to give if you're the Raiders and you're trying to get people to think that you would take opt-out players. I'm not saying that's exactly what he's doing, but if I'm Mike Mayock and I'm trying to make other GMs, scouts, and coaches think that I will pick opt-out players, I'm going to give that answer.
I honestly don't see a problem either way. I really don't. I don't see a problem either way because here's the thing. Nobody knew that the season, people were saying, oh, there's 50-50 chance they're going to play all their games. Or there's no chance that we're going to they're going to be able to finish the season. There's no chance. There's too many players, they're college guys. Like, okay, look, it's not like these guys that opted out.
Especially like Big Ten, Pac-12.
Yeah.
It's canceled. We're not doing it. And then we're coming back.
Yeah. So if it's like, it's not like any of these players who opted out are like, look like me now, are like out of shape and look like me. No, they were working. So it's not like they didn't play football for their college team and they were just fucking up. They even if they didn't play football, but they were training for the NFL, they're still working to get better for you.
Yeah.
So I don't see a problem either way. Now I know that maybe Gruden may see it different,
but that's also best case scenario too, right? So if you're that kind of kid that opts out, because I have no doubt that there's some players who opted out. They're like, dude, I want to play another year of football for free and risk injury. Like, I'm just going to sit this out, do nothing, and get drafted next season.
And I don't see a problem with that either.
Well, I do. If I have a choice, I have a choice between a kid who kept busting his ass and wanted to do whatever he could to get on the field over a kid of the exact same skill level, right? Like, let's say that's the difference maker. I'd rather have the kid with the I love football attitude. But if there's a super stud that's kind of like, I could take it or leave it, I'd want him as well.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's like you have to look at it from this perspective. It's not like this guy's sitting on his couch not doing anything. He's still working at his craft to get better. Hopefully to be an NFL player. Hopefully I mean, that's all you can go by is what if you work them out, if you see them at the pro day or whatever. If this kid's what you thought he was, if the numbers what you thought they were, or they maybe even a little bit better, you have to assume that that's what he was doing. He's not sitting on his couch and going out and running out. Like,
do you assume that, or do you hope that? Because I think And again,
no one's going to be coming off the couch and just freaking blow away people's number-wise. It's not going to happen.
Some guys have. Some guys definitely have. Like, there's definitely a lot. Like, there's been a lot of pro days of players you're like, man, I wasn't even thinking about this guy last season. Whatever he did during this opt-out looked great. And there's been guys the other way where it's like, man, this guy was not ready for his pro day.
That's what I'm saying is if they go to the pro day after opting out and they perform and they kill it, you can only assume that guy's been working. He hasn't been sitting around doing nothing. Fair. So, like, Micah Parsons is the perfect example. Guy goes to his pro day, fucking runs a 4.3. The guy's huge. He's a stud, man. He's the best defensive player on the board by almost everybody. Picks him as the best defensive player on the board. I think if he's available and we're picking, you gotta take him, man. He's the best player there. I don't know, man. I
just love Mayock.
They're gonna fuck it up, dude.
I just love Mayock's answer. I just love Mayock's answer. It's like, hey,
I think it's a great answer.
We've talked to players where they're like, yeah, like both my parents got COVID. I gotta be home for them. I can't risk this, or like, I gotta. My mom works 3 jobs, kicked out. Like raising 4 kids by herself. I have an agent that said, you'll give me $100,000 right now if I sign for you and opt out. Like, how do you tell a 20-year-old kid no to that money, right? So, again, he gave that great answer where I don't know if the Raiders are going to take players that opted out or not, but I do know that Mayock gave the perfect answer to make it sound like they will take players that opted out.
So here's the deal. What I took from his answer was, look, we don't know for sure. So what we're going to do is just say, fuck it, and look at the tape. Mm-hmm. That's all we can do, because you don't know anyone's situation. And again, there's players in the NFL who are, a couple pretty good players who opted out.
Yeah.
Look, ask New England's defense how many players they had opt out. Mm-hmm. So it's a real thing, man. It's a real thing, and you can't begrudge anybody for wanting to take care of their family, and you can't question anybody on that either. So since you can't do any of that, look at the fucking tape. You look at the tape, and that's it. You make your evaluation from that.
Look at the pro day now, right? Like,
you look at the pro day now compared to the tape. If they're just as good or better, or they perform just as good or they perform better, all right, man. There's no issues here. Now, if they come out on their pro day and they're dog shit, all right, well, this fucking guy hasn't been doing anything, or this guy hasn't improved, or whatever. But ultimately, you don't know for sure. So why, if you don't know for sure, why are you making a decision off of it?
It almost would be like a positive if you're like, dude, this guy sat on the couch for a year eating bonbons and not working out, and he still crushed the pro day. Like, what a freak! Like, imagine when we get him in the building every single day.
That's Jamarcus Russell all over again, dude.
Right?
Now you give a lazy guy money, and what happens? He gets fat.
Lazier.
He gets lazier. Oh God! Did you hear his fucking excuses why he would fall asleep during the freaking quarterback meetings? Because he had sleep apnea and he wasn't getting enough sleep. Well, he was sleep apnea because you weighed 300 fucking pounds playing quarterback. That's why you have sleep apnea, and that's why you're falling asleep.
That's because his insulin levels are spiking from having 13 chicken parms before he went into work that morning.
Fucking Twinkies and fucking sipping on that scissor on that drink. Like he got pulled over in fucking Alabama or whatever, in Louisiana, and he had that freaking purple drink on him. God damn, dude.
My favorite story. It made me almost like that we had Jamarcus Russell on the Raiders just for stories like this of how they would the coaches would give him tape to study at home and there would be nothing on it. And so like just to test to see if he watched it. And then when he'd come back to work the next day, they're like, hey, what was your analysis from that tape? And he like just give him an answer. That was bullshit. That's legendary stuff right there. That is legendary laziness that I almost have to respect.
See, the issue that I have right now that I'm having, and the reason why I just can't shake this feeling that something weird is going to happen in our draft is because we've had that against the grain decision maker in the late, great Al Davis towards the end of his career that made these questionable picks. And now we have John Gruden, who by all accounts has total power as well, who also makes questionable personnel choices. It's like, dude, we can't get away from these like patriarch type guys who have all this power in the organization and there's no one keeping them in check.
Yeah.
And it's really disheartening. And I hate to be that person who's always so negative about what's going to happen with the Raiders, but just their history has not shown that they're very sound at doing the things they need to do to be able to identify the right players. It just hasn't happened. It hasn't happened. And that's why I wouldn't give a shit about trading our first round picks because we shit them away anyway.
See, again, and I go the opposite way. It's like, we're going to blow so many picks. Like, let's hoard as many as possible so maybe we get lucky. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of how I am. Like, instead of trading, it's like, oh, let's trade 3 picks for like one higher pick. You're just decreasing your chances.
Oh, I'm saying trade picks for a proven player.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying, dude. But
yeah, but then our free agents we pick up suck too. So it's like,
oh, what's the talent evaluators, man? It's rough, bro.
Terrible at drafting, terrible at free agency.
Raider Nation, man. It's rough right now. And
just keep scouring the Ravens scout team, and maybe you'll find another Darren Waller.
they got plenty of defensive linemen. They they trot them off every year. Look, I'm just hoping, I'm praying that Mayock grows a pair and stands up to Gruden, if indeed that's what's been going on. Yeah. Because by all accounts, of course, Gruden's not going to say the buck stops with me, because when shit hits the fan, people are going to throw that back in his face. Just exactly what I said with the commentators not crushing picks, because if the guy ends up being a stud, they look fucking stupid, right? Yeah. Same thing with freaking Gruden. Even though he's the guy that he has the final say, and it's one of the only reasons why the only conditions he would come back to a team is if he can pick his own guys. He has Mayock, a guy who he likes, a guy who he trusts, a guy who can bounce ideas off. But ultimately, basically Mayock's doing all his pre-draft scout work for him, and Gruden's like, wow, this is the guy I want. Yeah, that's why I'm so puckered up right now, because I just don't want him to shit the bed. And it doesn't even stop with him. Like Reggie McKenzie made a lot of questionable decisions. We talked about this before the podcast started. Like they picked Khalil Mack because he was gifted to the Raiders at 5. He was gifted to them. Yeah. When Buffalo traded up to the 4th pick and they picked Sammy Watkins, I thought they were going to pick Khalil Mack. I'm like, fuck, they're going to pick Khalil Mack. We're fucking screwed. The best player in the draft that I thought that year, and we're going to end up getting, whoever else is left. And we ended up lucking out and getting the best player in the draft. Yeah. The next year, I'm like, okay, cool. We need a receiver because we had James Jones running around being our best receiver. We need a receiver, and fucking Amari Cooper is just standing right there. And everyone's saying the next Julio Jones. Yeah, he fell into our lap at 4. It's like, what the fuck are we going to do? But now, recently, we had a 4 pick, and I'm not going to go over it again. I'm getting palpitations talking about that shit.
Thursday night, when pick 17 happens, or if they trade up, trade down, God only knows. It's not going to make or break our draft or even our next season, but it will set the tone of is Mike Mayock and John Gruden, are they self-aware? Have they looked at the mistakes they've made and say, okay, let's look inward and get better? That's what it's going to tell me. A first round pick can and has changed the course of franchises before. It probably won't, but it will tell me, all right, these guys have looked at themselves in the mirror. Let's not go crazy. Let's fill holes. Let's see what's available. Let's pick these really good players. Let's not fall in love with someone because we like their answer to pro day 3 months ago, and now we're going to go completely off the rails. That's what this first round pick will tell me on Thursday.
Or like you said, I fell in love with the one clip of his tape, and that's why I want him. That's why I reached for him. Cleveland Farrell was a reach. Abram was a reach. Arnett was a reach. These are all reaches, and everyone knew it. And they haven't panned out. The reaches don't normally pan out in the first round. If you take a reach in like maybe the third round or the fifth round, okay, yeah, that's fine. But then I expect it to be impact players on your team. A first rounder is. Yeah. If we go impact player on defense in the first round, there's plenty of linemen that we can get one in the second round who's going to be an excellent player for us. But the problem is, who are they going to pick?
And that's just first round. Like last draft was bad throughout, right? Like we traded away our fourth round pick. Our Tanner Muse was like, what? This thank God he got hurt and put on injured reserve because we were being told that he was completely lost and absolutely befuddled. Like that's what hurts really bad too. Not just missing that first rounder, but not getting any quality depth as you keep going through.
It's disheartening that they're not oops. Yeah. It's not an oops. This is what you've shown. This is what you've shown Raider Nation you are. You're the one who picks bad picks. Yeah. Not bad players per se, but players that are picked in the wrong spots. And I don't know what the fuck they're doing in there, man. I don't know why. I don't know how you can have so many minds who are looking at the same things and who are in the same game, right? Play the same game in the same league, think so differently than almost everybody else. Because by and large, the draft board, the first rounders, fringe first rounders, okay, these are the 35, 40 guys who could probably go in the first round. And you pick an Abram who's not predicted to go in the first round. And it's like, what the fuck am I missing here? And then he goes on the field, and it's exactly what people said he was. He wasn't the guy.
When I was working at Fox Sports, we had a saying when we were making shows that we're like, all right, let's do this, let's do that. Like this should get ratings. I think our audience is going to love this. Let's try that. Let's try this. And our boss would shoot it down because the VP ahead of him would make the final decision. And so my boss, Steve, always had a great line. He's like, at the end of the day, we're making a show for the audience of one. And that's the VP that he answered to. That's it. Same thing with the Raiders. At the end of the day, the scout team is one guy. It's John Gruden. And that's as far as we know, that's how it is. Hopefully he learns his lesson and hopefully he, becomes a little more self-aware and sees what's been going on. Anything else on the draft you want to get to before we do What Up Windbags? I know you're passionate. I know your butthole's puckered.
What do I hope the Raiders do in the first round and throughout the draft? I hope that we get an impact player on defense at any level.
Okay.
If it's Baremore, if it's Parson, one of the linebackers, if it's like even a corner or a safety, I don't care. I want an impact player with the first pick on defense. There's the depth to get a offensive tackle in the second round. Beyond that, I want to go maybe another offensive lineman a little bit later, but I want to just go a lot heavier on defense. Because you keep saying, oh, we're so young in the secondary. Yeah, but they're not any good. I don't mind young players if they're good.
That wasn't me saying don't draft in the secondary. That was me saying let's pick up a free agent, good free safety to help these
and there's
guys.
And there's guys there, and there's still some corners out there.
I've come around to Carl Joseph too as not being a disaster. Just
He's
kind of
not a
like
disaster.
a safe, he's an improvement for cheap, right? It was no harm, no foul. Improvement for cheap. No,
if you end up drafting like what the fuck's that kid's name? Holland from what the hell is it? Where the hell did he play? Yeah, Holland from Oregon. If you pick up a Holland from Oregon in the second round for whatever reason, yeah, he's going to be a good player for you. But is he going to be that impact player? Let's say a Morig would have been. I mean, probably not. But you never know. Because the main thing right now is what we're banking on, like you said, is that, Gunther was the cancer. We cut it out. We have a new guy, Gus Bradley, coming in. He's going to bring stability. He's going to bring more teaching atmosphere, simplicity, put people in the right spots, game plan for specific games. And we're able to infuse some of these younger players that we have into a defense that plays at a decent level. That's what we're hoping for. So what we want to do is just give him more ammo. The offense, outside of offensive line, that in one spot on the offensive line, and of course some depth. That's what we need. So I don't think we need any skilled players. It's a huge one of the things, the reasons why I think it's going to be easier for us to get a lineman or a linebacker, safety, a really good player later in the draft is the draft is very heavy this year on wide receivers, offensive linemen, and cornerbacks. And I see a lot of teams taking, those, and maybe some of the players that we need on other parts of the defense could slide, and we can pick up a guy here and there a little bit later. But what I expect them to do is shit the bed. That's what I expect them to do, because I mean, I've gotten to where I've gotten to in life. Randy Jr.
Tell me about where you got where you are in life. I want to hear it.
I don't let the same person fuck me over the same way twice.
Okay.
Personally. Now, if you're going to fuck over my team by drafting bad, that's just what you're doing. I have no, it's not fucking me over personally.
Yeah.
But I believe what someone's incentivized to do. There is no heat on the ass cheeks and ball hairs of John Gruden to change. There's no heat at all on his ass to change.
Mm-hmm.
People, by and large, do what they're incentivized to do. If he's not incentivized to change his ways, by more often than not, or more than likely he's not. I hope I'm wrong, and he does, and he starts listening to other people and taking that into account more, especially when they're so spread out on a certain player, when they're so far apart on a certain player. Maybe you should go with what the room is saying over what you feel, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I just don't see it happening, man. I don't see it happening.
All right. Well, let's do some what up Windbags to end this show.
So before I kill myself.
Before you kill yourself, before I lose, it would be great for ratings if you just like offed yourself on camera. Like,
I'll do it on air.
Great things for the show.
I'll do it on air. Just for the show.
If you were a real team player, like you would off yourself on this show after the draft just for the ratings. So the what up Windbags, we're getting called out as we should. You got one and I got one. First one, the Night Accelerate says, I'm halfway through the podcast. This is last week's. And you keep calling last week's guest CJ Henderson. His last name is Baldwin, although I believe CJ Henderson to be a running back for Los Angeles Rams of the NFL. Yeah, I can't believe like 3 or 4 times, one of our best guests ever, CJ Baldwin. God. I kept calling him CJ Henderson.
CJ, I knew Henderson wasn't your last name. I just couldn't remember what it was. I knew it wasn't Henderson. I just couldn't remember what it was. And when I know the answer, I'll call RJ out. Like when you said Derek Floyd, I was like, who's Derek Floyd? Oh yeah, George Floyd. Sorry. Like I'll do that. But when I don't know the answer, if RJ just spits it back at me, then I'm like, what the fuck is his name?
I wonder if Baldwin feels like it was a compliment that I confused him with the cornerback for the Jaguars that played for Florida. Like maybe he takes that as a compliment.
Fucking hilarious.
I confused him with a stump player.
I was saying it in my head. I think you could almost, the first time you said CJ Henderson, I kind of like looked up like, Like I'm thinking, is that his? I don't think that's his last
Well,
name.
I think it's only fair to say that you absorb 17% of the blame for not correcting me too. Well, I said the wrong name, but you didn't stop me either. We'll take a little bit of the blame.
Just like you didn't stop me from asking AJ Hawk about who the freaking batter chicks are when he was married going into the NFL. Like you didn't stop me doing that.
I'll take 50% of the blame on that one. That was hilarious.
Not at the time. You're like, hey, you want to ask the questions.
And you sent me the questions ahead of time, and I still
just let me do it. You
I'll
fucking
let you go.
asshole. What an ass. Oh, terrible.
Christian Seha. So if you remember last week, I talked about how you welched on our 20-time anytime push-ups bet because Jake Paul knocked out Ben Askren, and I called you out. Christian Seha, be a Raiders fan, man up, and do those 20 push-ups. So
I was going to do the 20 push-ups.
He's not only questioning your manhood, saying man up, he's saying you're not a true Raider fan if you welch on a bet. I think he's onto something.
I don't know Christian. We are brothers in Raider fandom.
Mm-hmm.
But your opinion means less to me than RJ. So I'm not.
I didn't think that was possible. I didn't think it was possible for you to think less of opinion than mine. Well,
no, Christian. Right, well. Look, Christian. I'm probably going to end up doing them. I want to. It's funnier for me to listen to RJ get worked up over it. It's funnier for me. I'm going to end up doing them, but I want to play it out on RJ a little bit.
One of the worst things you can do as a man is welch on a bet. I'd rather you kick my dog than welch on a bet.
I have kicked your dog before.
I know. I wish you would do it again than welch on this bet.
He ate half a hamburger I had in my hand.
Yeah, nothing's safe around Bulldozer. That's for sure. Eddie Lento said, I'm coming around to Parsons. You remember we did a really long segment on potentially Micah Parsons, linebacker for Penn State. He seems in a lot of mock drafts kind of fall in the Raiders area. And it's like, all right, well, interesting
he's
that
so good.
He's badass. Little trouble in 2018. Will we take it? Anyway, Eddie Lento says, I'm coming around to Parsons, but when it comes to Mayock and Gruden, I can't see them drafting a player that opted out. Barmore would be the safe pick. Mo, JOK, and Parsons would be difference makers. Mayock just said there's talent at free safety in the third or fourth. Could be smokescreen, but I really don't think they're going offensive line. Barmore is my pick. What say you?
I agree. Barmore would be a great pick. He's a disruptor. Parsons would be the home run pick if he's available. You're getting the best defensive player in the draft by all accounts from a lot of different people.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to take a look at the reasons why he slid, he got into a fight with a teammate in the locker room. That happens all the time. Number one. Then there was some hazing when in his sophomore year on some freshmen. Again, that happens all the time. That happened, a few years ago. Parsons said so himself. If we're all judged on the decisions we've made when we're 18 and 19 years old, then I'm saying this. God help us all, because I know I've made some pretty shitty ones. He's a great player. Again, Rory would have failed the piss test because he was so fucking high. He's like, he can't take on blocks. He's terrible in coverage. And I watched his highlight tapes, then I watched game film, and I didn't see any of that. Mm-hmm. Not only that, these draft experts are like, he takes on blocks well. He's shifty at getting missed blocks. So he's shifty at going underneath these offensive linemen and making plays in the backfield. If it would be almost Khalil Mack-esque if Micah Parsons just falls to us at 17. When you're looking at the best defensive player by all accounts, by a lot of people's accounts in the draft, falls to you at 17 at a position that you want to get better at, because you can get better anywhere defensively. Mm-hmm. But again, Barmore wouldn't be a bad pick either. That kid's disruptive freaking defensive tackle.
Raiders 7528 says, he just listed who he wants. Top 3 players Raiders should select at 17 in order. Number 1, your boy Micah Parsons.
Uh-huh.
Number 2, Kwity Paye, defensive end, Michigan.
Yeah.
Number 3, another defensive end, Gregory Rousseau.
From Miami, I believe.
Not a lot of defensive end depth in this draft, but he's got number 2 and number 3 in his top 3.
Well, those are the main pass rushers in the draft. Those are like pretty much it from the line standpoint. Michael Parsons is a good, he's a good blitzer at getting after the quarterback. But I mean, those are the 2 edge rushers that the defensive ends, the best cream of the crop. Yep. Is it a position of terrible need for us? Again, I don't think anyone is safe on the defense as far as as far as their playing time goes. I think we can improve everywhere. I'm not saying that everyone on defense is terrible, but we can improve at every level. So I don't see a problem with any one of these picks. I don't think that we'd be able to get a player like Pay or Russo in the second round. If you value them that much, it all depends on who's left, on who's available. But if let's say the 2 safeties are gone, or Parsons and JOK are gone, and Barmore are gone, if whatever reason that you have a ton of offensive linemen or a ton of receivers or all this stuff that falls to you, like, well, I can get better other places. I can see them going for someone who is a defensive end. Yeah, I can see that. Would it be my choice? Probably not, but I can see it.
Any one of those picks, I think, would keep you from putting a gun barrel in your mouth, which is what I'm very concerned for on Thursday. So we're going to have a special episode of the Autumn Windbags, both for the podcast and the YouTube channel. We're going to do that on Sunday, a full preview, or I guess a full review, of every single one of the Raiders picks, every trade they may or may not make, every good pick that they make, and we'll try to keep Soto from snorting rat poison when this draft is over. We'll see. But until then, knock on wood if you're with me. Hey, Windbags, if you want Darren Waller to catch 20 touchdown passes this season, don't be afraid to click those subscribe, like, share, and comment buttons. Plus, your comment could be featured in the next What Up, Windbags?